1966. A wave of fear sweeps through a small town in West Virginia. Residents report a mysterious creature, tall, gray, with glowing red eyes watching from the darkness. They call it the Mothman. But was this eerie figure real or just a shared illusion? Decades later, strange photographs emerge, reigniting speculation. Has the Mothman returned? Point Pleasant, West Virginia. At first glance, a quiet town nestled between dense forests split by the mighty Ohio River. A place of solitude, a place of peace. But beneath its calm facade lurks a darker story. More than 50 years ago, Point Pleasant became the epicenter of a mystery, one that still haunts the imagination today. A place where legend and reality blur. A place where chilling events unfolded, gripping not just the town, but the entire world, leaving behind a trail of fear. Late 1960s. Unsettling reports began to surface. Witnesses spoke of a strange, menacing creature lurking in the shadows of West Virginia's forests. The descriptions were eerily similar. Tall, massive wings, glowing red eyes that filled those who saw them with fear. For many, the encounter was life-altering, unforgettable. Some were haunted by nightmares, plagued by a fear they could never escape. The memory of what they had seen stayed with them for years, a terror that refused to fade. The first documented sighting took place on November 12, 1966. In a remote cemetery near Clendenin, 5 gravediggers were working when a sudden movement caught their attention. As they turned, they saw something that left them frozen in shock. A tall, humanoid figure silently rose from a cluster of trees, but instead of running, it took to the air. Without a sound, it glided over their heads before vanishing into the twilight. This was only the beginning. In the months that followed, Point Pleasant became a focal point of fear and mystery as more and more people came forward with encounters that left them speechless. And so, a legend was born. In the days following the first sighting, reports became more frequent. Residents of Point Pleasant and the surrounding areas spoke of a massive, winged creature with glowing red eyes watching them from the darkness. Most encounters occurred in the TNT area, an abandoned World War II munitions site hidden deep within the West Virginian wilderness. Once a strategic military facility, the site had long been overtaken by nature, its concrete bunkers crumbling beneath dense overgrowth. Locals avoided the area, claiming the air was unnaturally cold and that a strange, low humming sound filled the silence near the bunkers. This desolate place soon became the heart of the eerie phenomenon. One of the most chilling encounters took place just 3 days after the first sighting. Late at night, 2 young couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry, along with Steve and Mary Mallett, were driving when they suddenly came upon something terrifying. Near the TNT area, Linda's panicked voice cut through the silence. "Roger, there's something on the road." The car's headlights revealed a towering figure, over 2 meters tall, with gray, leathery skin and massive wings folded against its back. But what truly sent shivers down their spines were its eyes, glowing red, intense, staring straight into their souls. Linda would later describe them as eyes that looked right through you. Roger gripped the wheel and instinctively slammed his foot on the gas. But just as the car surged forward, the creature sprang into the air. With a powerful beat of its wings, the creature rose into the air and gave chase. Roger floored the gas, the speedometer climbing to 100 miles per hour. But it was useless. The thing kept up effortlessly, hovering just above the car. Its glowing red eyes burned into them, never looking away. Then came the sound, a piercing, unearthly screech cutting through the night like a blade. It wasn't just loud, it was unnatural, a sound that made their blood run cold. Heart pounding, Roger gripped the wheel as they raced toward town. Only when they crossed the city limits of Point Pleasant did the creature finally break off, disappearing without a sound into the darkness. The road was empty again. The nightmare was over. But for the 4 passengers, the memory of what had stalked them that night would never fade. On November 16th, an uneasy tension gripped Point Pleasant. The Scarberries and Mallett's terrifying encounter the night before had sent shockwaves through the small town. At a press conference, the two couples sat before the crowd, their voices trembling as they recounted what had happened. They spoke of the dark figure that had pursued them, of its glowing red eyes burning into their souls, eyes they still saw when they closed their own. But as they spoke, a heavy silence settled over the room. Not everyone was willing to believe them. Dr. Robert Smith, a renowned wildlife expert, stepped forward and addressed the uneasy crowd. What these people saw was most likely a crane. These birds can grow surprisingly large, especially when storms push them off their usual flight path. His explanation was meant to calm the room. Instead, it had the opposite effect. A murmur spread through the audience. Whispers, skeptical glances, quiet disbelief. A crane? How could an ordinary bird inspire such paralyzing fear? How could it explain the glowing red eyes, the relentless pursuit, the unnatural presence that still haunted the witnesses? The tension in the room deepened. No one dared say it aloud, but the thought lingered. What if it wasn't a bird at all? The story hit the local newspapers that very night. From there, it spread like wildfire. What had begun as a single chilling encounter soon became a wave of unsettling reports. More and more people came forward, claiming to have seen the figure themselves. Some described glowing red eyes burning through the darkness. Others spoke of shadowy forms lurking near the TNT area, vanishing just before they could get a closer look. But as the stories multiplied, so did the doubt. Were all these accounts real? Or had fear itself taken hold of the town, blurring the line between fact and hysteria? With each new report, the mystery only deepened. One event that night stood out from all the others, a chilling encounter that would leave its witnesses shaken. Raymond and Doris Walmsley set out with Marcella Bennett and her young daughter Tina, driving through the quiet night to visit the Thomas family on the outskirts of town. The world around them was eerily still. Only the crunch of gravel beneath their tires broke the silence as they pulled into the driveway. They had no idea what was waiting for them in the darkness. As they stepped out of the car, an unnerving silence fell over them. It was as if the world itself had stopped breathing. And then, they saw it. A towering figure emerged from the shadows of a tree, larger than any human they had ever seen. Its rough, gray skin seemed almost otherworldly, but it was the eyes that rooted them in place, glowing red, unwavering, cutting through the darkness like embers from a dying fire. Those eyes, blazing, unrelenting, pierced straight into their souls. For a moment, time stood still. Marcella stood frozen. While the others fled into the house in panic, she remained motionless, unable to move, unable to breathe. Only the soft crying of her child in her arms snapped her out of her shock-induced paralysis. Hastily, she turned and ran inside. The figure did not follow, but it did not leave. It lingered near the house, its presence heavy in the darkness. Again and again, it peered through the windows, watching, waiting. Inside, the family clung to one another, their fear thick as the night around them. By the time the police arrived, the creature was gone, without a trace. But something remained, a memory seared into their minds, a lingering terror, the haunting certainty that what they had seen was neither man nor beast, but something far worse. In the days following these first encounters, fear and unrest spread through Point Pleasant. Reports of the creature became more frequent, and a sense of unease settled over the entire town. Darkness suddenly felt like a threat. Even those who were usually skeptical of such stories found themselves hesitating, thinking twice before stepping outside at night. One of the most chilling accounts comes from Connie Carpenter, a young woman from Point Pleasant. It was a quiet evening, and she was driving home from church when something in the sky caught her eye, a massive, shadowy figure with outstretched wings. In an instant, it shot over her car, moving faster than anything she had ever seen. For a fleeting second, its glowing red eyes locked onto hers, piercing, unrelenting. And then, with a powerful beat of its wings, it vanished into the night. Later, Connie would recall the moment with a shudder. She had felt frozen in place, unable to move, unable to breathe, as if the very air around her had turned to stone. But it was the eyes that lingered in her mind, hypnotic, otherworldly, burrowing into her thoughts long after the creature had disappeared. For days, she was tormented by nightmares, too afraid to step outside alone. And in her heart, she knew the truth. This was no bird, no animal. It was something else, something far worse. And whatever it was, it had come to Point Pleasant. The few who dared to enter the TNT area all spoke of the same unsettling sensation, the feeling of being watched. Some claimed they had seen it, a shadowy figure standing motionless beside the decaying bunkers, as if guarding something in the darkness. One night, a teenager named Tom and his friends ventured into the area, eager for a thrill. What began as a reckless adventure ended in sheer terror. Without warning, a powerful beat of wings tore through the silence. And, in an instant, a massive figure vanished beyond the treetops, swallowed by the endless dark. It felt like the darkness itself had come alive, Tom later recalled. We ran as fast as we could, and I swear I will never go back. On December 15, 1967, just over a year after the first sightings, tragedy struck Point Pleasant, one that would leave the town forever changed. During rush hour, the Silver Bridge, which connected the town to Ohio, suddenly collapsed. In the chaos, dozens of vehicles plunged into the icy waters of the Ohio River. 46 people lost their lives. In the days that followed, rumors spread. Some eyewitnesses claimed to have seen a strange figure near the bridge just before it fell. Some said it was the Mothman, silent, watching, hovering over the structure. Was it a warning? A harbinger of disaster? No one knew for sure, but one thing was undeniable. After that night, the Mothman was never seen again. The collapse of the Silver Bridge left more than just a wound on Point Pleasant. It sealed the legend of the Mothman forever. As the town drowned in grief, sightings of the mysterious creature all but disappeared. Not a single new report surfaced. It was as if the Mothman had vanished without a trace. But one question remains. Was the Mothman a warning of the tragedy to come, or merely a coincidence in a series of unfortunate events? The truth remains shrouded in mystery, just like the creature itself. The idea that the Mothman is a harbinger of disaster and death stems from ancient beliefs in omen creatures, beings thought to forewarn tragedy in many cultures. Like crows, owls, or black cats, often seen as symbols of dark premonitions, the Mothman has become a modern embodiment of impending doom. Its glowing red eyes, unnatural behavior, and eerie presence only deepen this fear. Some believe the Mothman was not limited to Point Pleasant, but has appeared in other parts of the world, always in the shadow of catastrophe. Among the most infamous reports are the Chernobyl Disaster, 1986. In the days before the catastrophic explosion at the Chernobyl nuclear plant in Ukraine, several witnesses reported seeing a dark, winged creature with glowing red eyes near the facility. Later, it became known as the Black Bird of Chernobyl, a name that would forever link it to the Mothman legend. The I-35W bridge collapse, Minneapolis, 2007. In the days leading up to the collapse of the I-35W bridge in Minneapolis, eyewitnesses reported sightings of a large, winged figure near the structure. After the tragedy, speculation arose. Had the Mothman been there once again? The 2004 Asian Tsunami. In the days leading up to the devastating tsunami that struck Asia in 2004, reports emerged of winged creatures spotted in the sky. Later, these accounts became entwined with the Mothman legend. Was it truly the Mothman? Or were these sightings a reflection of fear and uncertainty in the face of tragedy? The answer remains elusive. Yet such stories only deepen the mystery, further cementing the Mothman as an omen of catastrophe in modern folklore. Belief in the Mothman remains divided. Some see it as a harbinger of doom, appearing before disaster strikes. Others believe it is not the cause of tragedy, but rather a warning sign, a presence urging humanity to heed impending danger. From this perspective, the Mothman is less a malevolent entity and more a watchful guardian. Reports often describe it as a silent observer, present but never directly bringing harm. Yet, no matter the interpretation, the link between the Mothman's appearance and catastrophe remains deeply embedded in the collective imagination. Belief in the Mothman remains divided. Some see it as a harbinger of doom, appearing before disaster strikes. Others believe it is not the cause of tragedy, but rather a warning sign, a presence urging humanity to heed impending danger. From this perspective, the Mothman is less a malevolent entity and more a watchful guardian. Reports often describe it as a silent observer, present but never directly bringing harm. Yet, no matter the interpretation, the link between the Mothman's appearance and catastrophe remains deeply embedded in the collective imagination. The belief that the Mothman foretells disaster has made its legend immortal. Is it truly a harbinger of doom, a warning of impending danger, or simply a manifestation of fear and hysteria? The answer remains elusive. For many, the Mothman represents the fear of the unknown, a chilling reminder that something beyond human understanding may be watching, sometimes to protect, sometimes to warn. But what is the Mothman, really? An undiscovered cryptid? A being from another realm? Or just a trick of the mind, born from panic and suggestion? Skeptics propose a misidentified sandhill crane, its massive wingspan and red markings around its eyes fueling the confusion. Yet, eyewitnesses described its piercing scream as eerily human, unlike any bird. And then, there was Mr. Scarberry's unsettling question. What kind of bird could keep pace with a speeding car over 100 miles per hour without faltering? Never falling behind, never straying from its course. Whatever the Mothman is, it remains beyond the limits of what we understand. Some believe the Mothman is tied to extraterrestrial phenomena. In the weeks before the first sightings, locals reported numerous UFOs in the area. At the same time, strange lights appeared in the sky, and eerie figures in black suits allegedly visited residents, asking questions no one could answer. Whatever the truth might be, the Mothman remains an unsolved mystery that fascinates and unsettles people even today. Point Pleasant has fully embraced this legend, making it part of its identity. Each year, the Mothman Festival attracts thousands of curious visitors from all around the world, and they all wonder, will the creature that once spread fear and panic ever return? And if it does, what will it bring with it